this is just a quick video I'm doing out of my own curiosity, and I thought I'd film it too, because why not? So I'm sorry for the lighting and stuff if it's not very good. But anyway, I have this TyT th-9000D, low-cost Chinese 2-meter ham radio. These come in a few different variants. I think they come in 70 centimeter and the 200 megahertz band too. But anyway, by the time that I got this was a much cheaper option than any of the Yaesus. Now some of them are almost the same price as this, 20 or 30 bucks, as been said in a few comments. But I mainly got this because it was quite a bit cheaper, and being one of my first higher power ham radios, I didn't have very big of a budget. But anyway, I've been wanting to take this apart for a while and see what it looks like inside. I don't really care about the warranty so much. I'd rather see what's in it than have the warranty, because it's probably too late to send this back for any warranty reason anyway. This has a slight issue of a slight buzz in the output audio, and that could be for a few reasons. But I want to figure out a way to fix it, even though this unit is technically defective because of that problem, and I could have sent it back. It's a little late for that, and I want to see if I can do something like put a high frequency filtering capacitor in line with the speaker just to get rid of the high frequency buzz that's in there. One comment I had was suggesting that it's actually one of the clock crystals that controls the RF output of the radio that's leaking into the output audio signal. I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert in RF circuits or anything, because I'm not. I'm just starting out in electrical engineering, so I'm still learning what I'm doing. But anyway, it's a T8 Torx bit, a T8, to undo these 4 screws in the back here, if my camera would focus. Sorry about that. I semi have an idea about what's in here because I've seen a few pictures, and I'm curious what the build quality of mine looks like. Obviously the quality control isn't 100% if some of the units are having that buzz in the output audio, and it doesn't matter on the source. You can use the internal speaker or the auxiliary output and it still does it. But anyway, here we go. You have the metal backplate here. I think it's steel. I don't think that's aluminum. That feels like steel. And we're in the radio, if it'll focus here. And first of all, I have to say, it looks fairly clean. The cables here, the power cables, come in, and they go through a couple toroids, so that's nice to see, to filter out noise. Not all the noise, but this radio doesn't cause a lot of interference, and it doesn't accept too much interference, which for a Chinese radio is nice. And I have to say, the build quality doesn't look too bad. The capacitors, they're a mystery brand. They're not they're not like a Panasonic or a Rubicon or anything like that. They're some mystery capacitor. They look okay, but they probably don't have the runtime or life expectancy of something like a Rubicon or a Panasonic. I'd like to see those, but that's what makes this a cheaper radio. That's one of the ways they cut corners. Now that most of the shell of the radio is a big aluminum heatsink, and let's see what's attached to that. We can see here. Here, this looks like a voltage regulator. It's a nice beefy voltage regulator. The engravings, the chip numbers, were scraped off, unfortunately, so I can't find out exactly what it is. This, though, I did look up, and I can tell by the package and the pins. This is the output amplifier for the internal speaker. I think this was something like 5 watts output power, but it's nice to see that heat sinked, even though they probably could have gotten away without that, because the little speaker in here isn't going to take the full 5 watts of that chip. I'm not sure what this is doing exactly. It's probably doing something with the the RF output. It is a 2 amp power regulator. I'm not sure what voltage that's running. And here we have the final output transistor. This is going to be doing all of the amplification from the pre-circuit down in this side of the board. It's going to go out through the final drive transistor and go out right to the antenna after it goes through all of these air core air core inductors for RF filtering and tuning, whatever else those does. I know they do filtering, but I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on RF circuits. It goes out through the antenna. The antenna looks like it's nicely grounded with a gold-plated strap, and it's held in nicely. All the soldering looks really clean in this. It's obviously not hand soldered. It's wave soldering, it looks like. I take this can off of which I'm assuming is part of the preamp circuit, but it's soldered on. And this looks and feels like a actual silver coated silver coated shield above the final drive transistor, which is nice. It looks just like the silver coated shields I see in older RF based electronics, so it's nice to see that. It's screwed down and there's a hole in the PCB, and the bottom of the power transistor is pressed with these screws down into the heatsink, so good heat dissipation. That's generally what you see in higher end radios as well. But this radio is advertised to put out 75 watts and it gets hot, so I'm curious what kind of transistor this is, if it's like a genuine Hitachi or Toshiba, like I've seen in the higher end HF rigs, or if it's a knockoff. I'm not going to take that off right now because I'd have to desolder and unscrew the shield and redo all of the thermal compound, and I'm not going to do that right now. I could look it up. Somebody's probably done a full teardown of this somewhere, but I haven't seen a video. There's a ribbon cable going up to the control panel. I'm going to assume that's all the controls, probably a microcontroller up there. These are some ceramic filtering. These are filters for probably the preamp circuit. I don't know what's on the underside of the board, unfortunately. Oh, one more note in the back here. This port here, that looks like it should be filled, but it isn't. It has a connector that goes here. You can actually get the connector for this and put it in the back, so you have that. It's kind of like a programming socket, but it allows full control over the radio. So what a few people have done, built really cheap ham repeaters with these, and they just connect the connector that should be there for programming and radio control, and those connect right into a commercial repeater controller. So that part's kind of nice. So I'm going to take off the front, or attempt to here, and show you what's up there. Let's disconnect this first so we don't pull out the connector. I do need a nice small tripod. That would be very useful. There, it looks like that's disconnected. Sorry about that. But now I've removed that ribbon cable, and the only screws on this side were the ones from the bottom cover, and then there are two on the top, and I'm assuming those are T8 as well. Yes, they're the same. Again, sorry about the phone camera quality. The lighting and stuff makes with the black radio, makes the autofocusing weird. There's a nice washer there for the plastic, and then there's the T8 screw, so I'll put those separately. But yeah, anyway, oh, one thing I forgot to mention real quick. I am fairly confident that connector, if I can get this to focus, that connector is for the speaker, because it goes around the back of the PCB. So I wonder if I could put just a bypass or a filtering capacitor in there to filter out the higher frequency noise, and if I can figure out the exact frequency of the noise, I can match it to a good capacitor to block that out. I know it's kind of a ghetto solution, and the real solution would be returning the radio for a new one that doesn't have that issue, but I really don't want to bother with that. Anyway, I'm going to be doing some modifications to this, so I probably should have tried to return this, but it didn't occur to me at the time that that was a good idea for whatever reason. The washer came off with that one. There we go. Okay, now that the screws are removed, there are some clips on the bottom. This is fairly difficult with one hand, so sorry for the way I'm holding this. That's not going to work. I'm going to undo these clips and try and slide the front off of the radio before I continue. Okay, the control panel slid right off. You just slide it from the top and then the bottom clips come undone. And it looks like it's just one ribbon connector in there, so you could probably make this a headless unit somehow and make a very long connector, or relatively long. And for me, what it looks like is for all the models, the UHF, VHF, and the 220 megahertz version all use the same main power components. And it looks like they just put different control units on it, because it looks like they just have the label on here and, oh, this is the control panel for this one. And in the control panel, it looks like somebody completely different built the RF components and the control circuit, because the control circuits is where it gets quite crusty and unimpressive looking. Lots of corrosion in there, so I'm assuming they left a bunch of flux on there, and now it's pretty corroded, which could make the longevity of this control unit not very good. I'm assuming that's some kind of microcontroller or an interface controller to control the interface between this and the main unit. There's a couple screws in here. I'm going to pause the video again and see how easy it is to pull that circuit board out. Okay, after trying for a while, this really doesn't come out. It's really jammed in there, and it looks like the knobs may be glued onto the front. It looks like this is a fairly easily replaceable part, but I really doubt they sell these separately. But again, it's really crusty and corroded in there, so I'm not super impressed by the look of that. I mean, nothing looks really bodged together. It looks all professionally done, but it doesn't look like they cleaned the flux off and it's corroded it may have been cheaper flux and it's corroded stuff. Anyway, I'm going to put this back together because I'm still going to use this. I didn't pull this to parts not to put it back together again. But I enjoy just pulling stuff apart, seeing how they work, looking up data sheets for things, and learning how things like these ham radios work. Ham radio is one of my newer hobbies, and I hope to get deeper into it once I can afford and learn more about it. I want to get into high frequency, which is lower frequency than these radios, for really long distance communication. But the electronics and stuff, I like electrical engineering and electronics, so ham radio is one of the things that really appeals to me, because it's a form of communication that, despite the internet and VoIP and everything, it's still something that just doesn't go obsolete. It's been around for more than 100 years, and it's still going fairly strong, and I like the community around it. But anyway, thanks for watching this video. I'm going to do a keyboard build, a custom mechanical keyboard build coming up here soon, probably in the next week, as soon as I get the parts in. So if you're interested in mechanical keyboards, feel free to subscribe or check that out, or if you're already subscribed, check that out when I do that the next couple of weeks. I'm going to get this back together, and hopefully I'm going to do some more ham radio stuff here in the future, and I'll become more knowledgeable about the way RF circuits work. So I can do more than just point out the obvious components and explain how they work and everything for people who are curious. I like absorbing as much information about the things that I like as I can, so I can explain it to other people. But anyway, thanks for watching, and see you next time if you're subscribed.